Thank you, Chairman. Colleagues, we have an amendment. If it's okay, I would like the folks to see the amendment first, and we'll get that passed first. Thank you.
Okay. You ready to present your amendment then?
I am. Colleagues, this amendment to SB43 just further clarifies the language of what we're trying to do with this bill. We're trying to stop explicit material in front of our children. We're not trying to stop plays or lip syncing and those kind of things. I'm sure you, as well as I, have received so many emails from schools saying that's our #1 fundraiser. We don't want to stop that. So this bill does not stop lip syncing or someone that's dressing up in the opposite sex. It's specifically trying to protect our children from explicit sexual material. So that's really what the amendment does. And so with that, I'd appreciate a good vote on the amendment to SB43.
Thank you, Chairman. So I represent Bentonville and Bella Vista, and my constituents did have some questions about the bill and how it impacts the LGBT community. Clearly, we all want to protect kids, I think we agree they shouldn't be exposed to adult materials, but we don't want to target or isolate the members of that community. So who is making the judgment on what is pure? Because pretty much anything can be sexualized, and so can you clarify who's making that judgment and how that'll be taken care of?
It's a well-established legal term has been established by judges, so the judges are making that term. But I think I would like to just to focus on the amendment at this point. So the amendment just further clarifies what we're trying to do. So if you look at the amendment, take a minute to look at that. If anybody has questions on the amendment, I'll be happy to take that. But again, we're not trying to isolate anyone. We're trying to protect our children. It's not anti-anybody. It's just, again, keeping sexual explicit material away from our kids.
Okay, can I ask a follow-up?
Yes, you're recognized for follow-up.
Thank you. Can you also just address the issue of Hooters or Twin Peaks and taking kids there? Is that something that will fall under your bill?
So that's already covered in other statutes. This is specifically going against outdoor entertainment, those things that we're looking at. So that's already covered in other statutes, and if somebody wants to run another bill, they're happy to do that. But this is covering this one specific area. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Representative Kavanaugh, you're recognized.
Yes, sir. I'll make a motion to accept the amendment.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the amendment. Any discussion? Representative Bry, you have discussion on the motion? Please turn your light on.
Yes, sir, I will second that motion.
Okay, all right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Okay, your amendment passes. You may present your bill as amended.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate you. In my recent primary elections, I knocked on thousands of doors in my district. I repeatedly heard this word over and over to me. What is going on with our kids? Why can we not stop the sexually grooming of our children? We used to protect our kids. We used to protect innocence. Why are we not doing that? Surely there's something that you can do to help protect our children. So that's where this bill came from, to protect our children, to stop us being pushed back from a woke agenda and trying to attack our kids. The children in our state are struggling. I think if you visit with any of your superintendents or your teachers, they're going to tell you our kids are struggling. We have a record number of students on prescription antidepressants, a number of students that are addicted to drugs, children that are committing suicide at the highest rate ever. The rate of youth struggling with gender identity has skyrocketed, and we'll continue to see an increase in child molestation and children trapped in sex trafficking. We used to cherish the innocence of our kids and protect it, and do everything we could to protect it, and go above and beyond to protect the innocence of our children, but somehow we've forgotten that. We've left that behind. How is it possible? How is it possibly okay for children to be present at a drag performance where a prosthetic penis is used as a microphone, or where drag queens chant, "Cheers to the one who lick us where we pee"? Those are things that are going on right in Texas, right below us, and those are videos that are being sent to me from my constituents, just appalled what's going on in front of our kids. How can we allow children right here in Little Rock to have emergency contraceptives tossed in their direction while they're at a gay pride parade? An emergency contraceptive with a children's hospital sticker attached to it. We have got to say, enough is enough. We're going to protect our kids. That's exactly what this bill does. I have worked very hard with the Attorney General's office, with the Governor's office, with Alliance Defending Freedom to get a bill that will be passable in court, with the language to be approved in court. And so that's what this bill does. It specifically stops. If you look and read there on the amendment, read 26, they're about an adult-oriented performance. It means a performance that is intended to appeal to the pure interest and that features a person who appears in a state of nudity or is semi-nude, The purposeful exposure with a complete or partial of a specific anatomical area or prosthetic genital or breast or a specific sexual activity. So we're just trying to keep minors away from sexually explicit material. We're not trying to be anti-anybody, anti-trans, anti-anything. We're just trying to protect our kids. It's the purpose of the bill. That's what our constituents, I know mine vastly, want us to be sure to protect our kids and protect their innocence. Again, we've been doing this for years. We've kept kids out of strip clubs. We keep kids out of bars. We keep them from getting tattoos. We're just adding another area that we want to protect our kids from. Adults can do what adults want to do when it's adults present and children are not there. It's really simply what the bill does. It's not anti-anybody. So we've, again, been doing this for decades. We're just trying to protect our kids. We're not trying to stop plays. We're not trying to stop Peter Pan or Tootsie or any of those things. That's not what we're trying to do with the bill. We're just simply wanting to protect our kids. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions from the committee.
Representative Kavanaugh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to clarify, you had just said that this in no way will affect theater, no musicals, no plays that anyone's having. What about the high schools that have these things called male beauty pageants, where they dress up to raise money and for their whatever their charity might be? Is that going to affect this?
Not in any way whatsoever.
Follow up, Mr. Chair.
Yes, follow up.
If a parent still chooses to take a child to the drag performance, are they still allowed to do so?
Not if they're doing what we're listed here in this performance. If there's nudity, so if there's some type of, depends on what they're doing, right? There's things that are appropriate for children. Just like we rate movies, we have G-rated movies and we have X-rated movies, correct? And so there's things that may happen if they'll have to be aware of what's going on in that performance. If there's a type of nudity or sexual activity, like there's in this definition, then no, it's not appropriate for them to take their child to that.
I didn't ask if it was appropriate. I asked, were they going to be allowed if a parent made the decision that they wanted to take their child to one of these performances?
No, one of these performances, minors will not be allowed in these performances under this definition that we have here.
Thank you.
Sorry, thank you for the clarification.
Okay, Representative McCullough, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Bentley, how will this be enforced? How will this bill be enforced?
Just like we enforce every other law that we have on someone that can't get into a strip club or an X-rated movie. We enforce that now. We don't allow use into a bar where there's alcohol. We don't allow them into a strip club, so it's going to be enforced the exact same way it's been enforced there.
Follow up, Mr. Chair.
Yes, follow up.
Thank you. I would say I've probably, sitting up here, been to maybe more drag shows than anyone up here. They've always been in clubs and places where you couldn't get in unless you were of age to do that, legal age to do that. I've also participated in pride parades and different things like that. And I've also talked to my constituents, and I've heard nothing about any of this. I've seen none of this happening across the state. So I'm still trying to understand why the words attack and I do believe that's what's happening, is attacking this very small group of people. Can you explain that to me?
I represent a different part of the state than you do, and my part is very conservative, and I'm doing exactly what my constituents have asked me to do. And we're not affecting anything that goes under a club where minors aren't present. This has absolutely no effect on that whatsoever.
Representative McCullough, you through?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Representative Collins, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm looking at the new language here in 26 post-amendment, and I want to ask you about this 26A. First of all, what is semi-nude? I don't think it's defined in here, so I'd like your definition of what that even means. And second, the way that this is not separated, this A and B is not separated with a conjunction, an and or an or. I would read that to be, in the absence of a conjunction, an or. So is the intent to say that an adult-oriented performance could be either someone who appears in a state of nudity or is semi-nude, or the stuff in B, or the stuff in C?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so any of those things independently would be considered adult-oriented performance. And then I also am curious about the semi-nude, please.
Yes, sir. And that will be determined by a judge, not by me or not by you. The judge is there to enforce the law.
Follow up, please. Is there an intent of what semi-nude means? I mean, is there a common parlance of what semi-nude means to you?
Numerous videos that I've seen of that. Again, it's not for me to determine or for you to determine. It'll be for a judge to determine and for common sense. We're trying to bring common sense back into what should be in front of our kids. I don't know why we're intent on bringing sexual explicit material in front of our children. We're just trying to stop that.
Well, I do think that the words in our bills are what we determine, but thank you.
Hey, Representative Hudson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Bentley, why do we need this additional language? I'm looking at 14.1302, and this appears to be ground that's already been tread. So why is it necessary to add another definition that is essentially more or less what's already included in that part of the code?
I think it's necessary. I think we've not drawn the line enough. I think we've seen this being pushed a little bit out in front and open, so it's exactly what we tried to do with our other bill. We're trying to keep sexual explicit material away from our children in public. I think the public area, as you see further in the bill, is one area that we're really trying to make sure that minors are not present when things are done with nudity or semi-nudity or those things. We're trying to protect children. That's really what the bill is about. And my constituents feel that we're currently not covered with what we're doing.
Follow up.
Yes, you're recognized.
Okay, so going back to what Representative Collins was saying with regard to some of the definitions, which are pretty vague, I can appreciate that you say that a court is supposed to figure this out, although we're already dealing with significant backlogs in the court, and I don't know that the judges will be thrilled if we're having them try to define words that we didn't. But I'm thinking in terms of concerts that come through. Miley Cyrus in a short skirt, Madonna with the cones on her boobs. Are those semi-nude? Are we going to quit allowing major pop artists to come through?
It's not the purpose of the bill. The purpose of the bill is to keep sexually explicit material away from our kids and use some common sense when we're taking care of our kids.
But would you agree with me that without an explicit definition, that it's likely that people will be confused by the intent of the bill?
This language was brought to me by lawyers that feel it's very well to be protected, so I'm going to go with the lawyers that I worked with to make this bill the best it can be.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Ray, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Bentley, as I read through the many emails that I've received on this bill, one of the common themes that keeps coming up is people say, don't criminalize this behavior. But as I read the bill, it seems to me like you're just regulating these types of performances in the same way any other adult-oriented performance would be regulated. Am I missing something, or is that correct?
No, you're exactly right. We're not trying to ban anything at all. We're trying to let adults do what adults do in adult presence and keep children protected.
Okay, Representative Collins, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative, as you know, the Attorney General has made himself available to help members with questions about constitutionality of bills. Have you spoken with anyone in the Attorney General's office about the constitutionality of this bill as it's presented to us?
The amendment came from his office, me working with his office. That all came from constitutional lawyers.
And he believes this is constitutionally sound?
Yes, he does,
Okay, thank you.
as does the governor's office. So I've been working with them to do the amendments that we've done to the bill to make sure it's constitutionally sound. I don't want to pass a bill just to pass a bill for theater. I want it to protect children, so that's why I make sure that it will hold up in court as best as we possibly can.
Representative McCullough, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's been a long history of drag queens as performance art. And I know, Representative Bentley, you've talked a lot about common sense and everything. In the past, have constituents and parents and people just not cared about their children in the past, since this has never come up before?
It's the point that it's coming out into the public and public arenas where children are present, and more seeing drag-friendly shows that my constituents don't feel they're drag-friendly, children-friendly at all. The things that are expressly sexual explicit material, saying it's just the examples I gave before about a drag performer using a prosthetic penis and using that as a microphone in front of children. I think that's horrible, but that's been what's going on around our country and in Texas and close by. So those are the things that my constituents want to protect us from.
Follow up, Mr. Chair.
You recognize?
Thank you. Can you tell me specific incidences in Arkansas where those things have happened?
One thing I gave to you was about the emergency contraceptives being thrown out where children were present in a drag parade with a children's hospital sticker on there. That's not things that we need to do with our kids throwing out emergency contraceptives. I don't have specific videos here in Arkansas, but again, we pass bills all the time proactively to protect our kids. I don't want to wait till it's here until I have parents livid what's going on with their kids here in Arkansas. Let's protect them beforehand. It's going on all across the country. Texas is just 2 hours away. I don't want to wait till it's here. I want to protect them beforehand to make sure our kids are safe, and that's what my constituents have asked me to do, and that's exactly what we're trying to do today with this bill.
So no specific incident in Arkansas?
Not that I'm aware of, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened. I know that other folks have seen things that I don't have on video. I have people that have contacted me from Mountain Home and said they were in Batesville, said, for heaven's sakes, we moved to Arkansas, away from Oregon, to be here in Arkansas where things are fresh and clean and wholesome for our kids to be around, where they were very disturbed at things they saw at a pride parade there. So again, I don't have videos of it all, but there are things going on. That's why my constituents, again, I was in the primary going door to door visiting with folks what they were concerned about, and they were very concerned about what was happening to our kids and wanting to get things. This is not the end all to what's going on with our kids. I'm not trying to say that. This is one step in a number of things. I know other members of this body are doing other things to protect our kids from pornography and different things. So that's all that we're trying to do with this bill.
One more follow-up, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Do you believe, Representative Bentley, there can be a drag performance that is appropriate?
Yes, I do.
You through, Representative?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Representative McClendon, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Just following up on Representative Ray's point, I just want to clarify that this bill is simply equating adult drag shows to other adult entertainment. It is not drawing it out as a separate class or category. It is just saying included with X-rated shows and strip clubs, we're going to add the adult-oriented drag shows as well. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Representative Richardson, you're recognized.
I'll have a motion at the appropriate time.
Representative Hudson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So whenever we start talking about artistic expression, I worry a great deal about government interference on a First Amendment basis. And assuming that we look at this, or there's an argument that there is artistic value to these performances and we're regulating them, why isn't the narrowest way that the government can regulate this type of artistic expression to simply recommend to our constituents that they don't take their children to events that they don't think that they ought to see? My concern is that when we talk about regulating these types of performances in the way that you're proposing, that we create a First Amendment issue.
Do you have a specific question? I didn't hear a question in that. I'm sorry.
Yes. Why isn't the solution to simply not take your kids if you're worried about exposing them to these types of performances?
Because these performances are being done in public where people are not specifically taking their kids. So it's kind of tough for parents to protect their kids if they're walking by somewhere, had no idea that was going on, and it's out in the open for people to see. So that's the whole point of it, that it used to be where it was in a club, where it wasn't open to the public for children to see, but now it's in open areas where people aren't specifically taking their children, but they're seeing it anyway. That's the whole purpose of the bill. And again, I'm not a lawyer. I've been visiting with constitutional lawyers to make this as sound and as narrow as we can. I'm not trying to be anti-anybody, anti-trans, anti-anything. We're trying to protect our children. That's specifically what the bill is about.
Follow up, Mr. Chair.
Yes, you're recognized.
So kind of to follow up on Representative McCullough's question, have there been instances where people were literally walking by a performance in Arkansas or nearby and a drag performance or an obscene performance was happening on the side of the street?
I can tell you, again, with the folks that called me that moved here from Oregon that wanted to get their kids into a place where it's safe, and they were very offended by the things they saw at the drag parade openly in Batesville going down the street. And again, with the children receiving emergency contraceptives with a children's hospital sticker tossed at them at the Pride Parade here in Little Rock. I don't have specific answers, but other specific things, again, things are going on right here in Texas, all around the nation. My constituents wants to stop it here before it gets any further. That's the whole purpose of the bill.
Thank you,
Put
Mr.
some
Chair.
guardrails up to protect our kids.
Okay, Representative Collins, did you have a question?
Yes, sir.
Would you please mash your button?
I think it's on.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, we've spoken a few times about the differences between your district and your area and maybe some other representatives' districts and areas. You know, I represent a district where we really do value diversity and expression and freedom in certain ways that maybe is different, it sounds like, from where you're representing. I'm curious, do you believe that this is something like this would be preempted or impermissible to do at the local level? Do you think that it is not allowed to do that, you know, to ban the types of things that you're trying to ban here at the local level?
I think we need to expand it into state policy, exactly why I'm here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize, Representative Bentley. I was a little late getting in here. As I told you the other day, I had to go run a bill, so